So now that we are going deeper into knowing and discovering our identity, we're going to look at another aspect of God, which is that God is ultimate. Let me explain what I mean by this. Sometimes we may find ourselves as being creative people that we may tend to be extreme in some things. Perhaps it's in our emotions. Or perhaps we know someone who's very creative, and when it comes to creating something, they go very far to the extreme of trying to be as perfect as possible. And if it doesn't work, they can get very frustrated or upset to an extreme. Creative people tend to be extreme like this. Again, because we're created in the image of God, who is an artist and does everything at a high level. He is ultimate. God is more loving. He's more gracious than anyone. He is also more just, but also more patient. But God's anger even is greater than anyone else's. In Psalm 113, the psalmist says, "For the Lord is high above the nations, His glory is higher than the heavens. Who can be compared with the Lord our God, who is enthroned on high?" This is the God who is our Father, the God who has made a kingdom for us. He is not weak, He is not mediocre, He is not a God of half measures. He is an ultimate God. Whatever He does or He feels, He does it to the full extent. He's never lukewarm about anything. And in fact, He calls us to also not be lukewarm in who we are. So in being artists, we don't have to think that we have to tone ourselves down or try to not be so excited maybe about our art or so passionate about something. In fact, in Revelation 3, God is speaking to one of the churches and He says, "I know that you are neither hot nor cold. I wish you were one or the other. But because you are like lukewarm water, you're not hot or cold, I will spit you out of my mouth." See, God is this balance of extremely just and extremely merciful. All of these extremes held in this balance. We see this. He expresses this in this beautiful story. Actually, there's two stories. One with Moses, when Moses asks to meet God and God passes in front and then declares who He is. And God Himself says this. He says, Yahweh, His name, the Lord, the God of compassion and mercy, slow to anger, filled with unfailing love and faithfulness, and I lavish unfailing love to 1,000 generations. I forgive the sin and the rebellion, but I do not excuse the guilty. I lay the sins of the parents upon the children and grandchildren, and the entire family is affected to 3 and 4 generations. God is incredibly just and powerful. But the beautiful story of Elijah is where God comes to us, not to terrify us. With Elijah on the mountain, there was this powerful storm and then this earthquake, which clearly came from God, but that was not how God met him. God met Elijah in a still, small voice. So even though Hebrews describes God as this consuming fire, Nahum the prophet tells us that the Lord is jealous and avenging God, we also hear that He is slow to anger. Jesus also reflects these two extremes. Where in chapter 10 of the book of Matthew, Jesus said, "Don't think I came to bring peace, I came to bring a sword." And yet at the same time, only 2 chapters later, he said that he will not crush the weakest reed or put out the flickering candle. See, this is the God who is our Father, the God whom we will dwell with eternally in his kingdom. He is our protector. He is so powerful. We have nothing to fear when we are on his side. But he is loving and tender and compassionate, and he wants us to come close to him. And that is why he has made this beautiful kingdom, and that is what we reflect in all that we do with our art, our creativity, our stories and songs. That beautiful relationship between us, so small, and our God, so ultimately powerful and ultimately loving.